I'm starting to wonder if the people running the Postal Service really want to help us vote, because the election mailer so many of us got is misleading. Tonight's Broncos game without fans will actually have 500 fans. The voice of the Nuggets is inside the NBA bubble, where his job is to pretend like he likes the other teams too. And in a school district struggling with student lunch debt, Next Viewers just rolled up with an $80,000 check. Yes, you heard that right. You're not just watching the news, you're doing something. Next. If U.S. Postal Service leaders are mad that people are accusing them of trying to mess with the election, perhaps Postal Service leaders should stop messing with the election. A judge has ordered that the Postal Service stop sending out a misleading voter information mailer to Coloradans. Our state's Democratic Secretary of State and Attorney General sued to make that happen over the weekend, after most of you probably got the mailer. I mean, it's not like the mail carrier is going to, march back to your house and, take it off your kitchen counter. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger, help me understand.
Just like every election in Colorado since November 2013, you're going to get your ballot in the mail. Yet the Colorado Secretary of State and the Attorney General are suing the Postal Service to prevent delivery of an election-related notice that's being delivered in the mail.
Marshall, for every person who gets one of these postcards, that's one more misinformed voter.
These notices give general information about voting by mail, information that is not specific to Colorado, since we already get our ballots by mail automatically and can return them at drop boxes in addition to mailing them back.
What worries me is that Colorado voters need to get a clear message as to how our system works. When the federal government interferes and offers an incorrect message that goes against the way things actually work, people do get confused.
On Saturday, Colorado was granted a temporary restraining order preventing the Postal Service from delivering these. But what good is that court order when so many of us already receive them? According to the Postal Service, 136 million of these mailers were sent out in the United States, 2.2 million through the Denver Processing and Distribution Center. The USPS estimated that through Saturday, when a judge granted a temporary restraining order preventing these from being delivered, 1.66 million had already ended up in Colorado mailboxes, about 75%. So how do you undeliver the mail? And for the 1 in 4 yet to receive it, does the state expect each postal worker to pull it from the stack of mail that ends up in your mailbox today?
I do think it's fair to ask the Postal Service to use their best efforts not to distribute what is knowingly false information that would misinform Colorado voters.
In a filing with the court, the Postal Service wrote that 30 USPS employees spent 20 hours on Sunday searching for undelivered postcards to take them out of the mail stream. And yeah, individual carriers were directed to remove the postcards from the mail and to not deliver them.
What a mess. There's a court hearing set for Friday. Secretary of State's office said they're considering asking the court to order the Postal Service to mail out a correction in Colorado. There's a man named Tim Campbell. He fought to make Denver streets safe to cross. He was killed while crossing Colfax in his wheelchair Friday morning. Police say a driver ran a red light and hit him. The driver got a ticket for careless driving and was allowed to go on his way. Here's Steve Steger.
He was, such a thoughtful person that he really cared about people.
At the corner of Colfax and Irving in West Denver, flowers and a candle memorialize a man who was trying to make a change.
He had a really tough time getting around, and he was definitely an advocate for making things safer.
Safe Streets advocate Alan Cogill went to church with Tim Campbell. Tim was crossing the street in his wheelchair Friday morning when Denver police say a driver ran a red light, hit Tim, and killed him. That alone would anger anyone who wants to see safer streets in Denver. But it's what happened next that frustrates them even more. DPD says the driver was cited for careless driving, resulting in death, then released from the scene.
The current system is not going far enough to discourage human beings from running over other human beings by either being careless or reckless.
Last year, lawmakers stiffened the potential penalties for that careless driving charge. Anyone convicted could have their license suspended for a year and have to pay restitution. But it's still a misdemeanor with minimal, if any, jail time associated with it.
When you're driving a 1,000-pound car and not paying attention to what's ahead of you, whether it's a red light or a little kid that happens to accidentally run into the street, that is a conscious choice.
We can punish people for behaving in unsafe ways on Colfax Avenue, But really, we'd like to redesign the street so people are behaving more safely in the first place.
Jill Locantori with the Denver Streets Partnership says the focus should be more on pushing the city to make planned improvements to Colfax that might save lives in the future.
We've seen literally about a dozen or so people killed on Colfax in the last couple years, and 2 just at that intersection of Colfax and Irving, which really underscores the urgency of the city needs to move quickly.
Now, the Denver DA's office has not received this case yet. They will, and they will likely investigate to see if there needs to be any kind of different charging in this case. As for the redesign of Colfax, a spokesperson for the city's Department of Transportation told me today that is part of the Elevate Denver bond program, Kyle, and they expect the work on that project to be completed by the summer of 2024.
Steve, the folks that you talked to really kind of got to the heart of the matter, that as much as the criminal charge or lack thereof is going to upset people, you can only ask so many drivers to keep the threat of punishment in their head so much as they're driving down the road. Changing the streetscape is what impacts every driver every time.
Yeah, there's really a question of whether or not enforcement is very effective in these situations. I'll tell you, when I was out there today, I watched DPD officers on motorcycles pulling people over nonstop in that area of Colfax. It was like an organized patrol there. But the advocates are really pushing for this change to city streets. If you make them more narrow, it actually might encourage people to slow down along those corridors, which then, at least if there is a crash, it makes the likelihood of the victim surviving a lot higher.
We've talked about those percentages before. Slower the vehicle, greater the chance that somebody survives. All right, Steve, thank you very much. Denver police officers filed an ethics complaint against Denver City Councilwoman Candy Citabacca, accusing her of insinuating that police officer was racist because she's white. Citabacca's quest to defund Denver police failed. Not a single other member of council voted for the idea. Citabacca's been mixing it up with police at various homeless sweeps in the city. The incident last month was captured on officer body camera video. According to the complaint, the councilwoman approached police, pointed at a black officer, and stated, "You should be ashamed." Then pointed at Officer Mallory Luckin, who is white, and said, "I would expect this from you." The complaint also alleges that a protester gave Councilwoman Citabacca an officer's body camera, which was found at the scene. And the complaint says that body cam footage was not returned to police until 51 hours later. Citabacca's office told us that they would not comment on this ethics complaint until their legal advisor had reviewed it. So you all did something remarkable, by the way. You donated $82,000 to pay off the student lunch debt in Greeley Evans School District. $82,000. That means that families up there are going to be told that their debt has been paid. They don't have to worry about it anymore. It means that the district won't have to dip into other funds for other programs if they're unable to collect that student lunch debt. $82,000 raised by Next Viewers. One $5 donation at a time. It's the 4th highest weekly total since we began our Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign back in June. I will be meeting you back here on Wednesday, and I think I've got another good $5 idea about how we can make our state an even better place to live. There's a statewide fire ban in effect for Colorado now. We'll look at why national parks in our state make their own rules about fire restrictions. And the no fans in the stands at Mile High tonight will actually be 500 people, all there to witness the Broncos season opener. How'd they get in? Next. May I make a recommendation? This is where I please our bosses by suggesting that you read the competition's articles. They have good articles sometimes. I want you to see them. Like the fish detective story on the Colorado Sun. For real, though, a great article on the recent discovery of some dead rainbow trout in the South Platte. And the people who regularly fish that stretch of river are solving the mystery of whether what's going on there is natural or something more sinister. Fish detectives. Colorado Sun. There's a link on the next Facebook page. Tell them that I sent you. Update on a couple of quick stories that we've been talking about here on Next recently. RTD is now projecting slightly fewer layoffs than what we talked about last week. The chief financial officer is expected to tell the board tomorrow that they need to lay off about 550 workers. Last week, the CEO was saying it could be 635. RTD's looking at a $166 million budget shortfall. On Colorado's last call for alcohol, the Tavern League of Colorado, which sounds like something I should belong to, is dropping its lawsuit against the governor over his 11 p.m. last call executive order. So you remember, it was 10 p.m., governor moved it to 11, all of his executive orders. The bars and such sued over this. They wanted it later. Tavern League said today that keeping that lawsuit alive was too expensive while its businesses are suffering. Tonight's next question comes from Helen, who wants to know why the Great Sand Dunes National Park in southern Colorado doesn't have to follow the statewide fire restrictions that are in place. So, Great Sand Dunes National Park is obviously under the purview of the federal government. The rangers there told us they do consider local guidance on fire restrictions. That said, I had zero idea of this. The national park, Sand Dunes, it is under a stage 1 fire restriction every day of the year. It's always the same. And that's the same as what we have statewide right now. And Rocky Mountain National Park, also stage 1 fire restrictions year-round. The voice of the Nuggets at Pepsi Center takes us inside NBA bubble life, where his job is to root for the home team and the other team.
I kind of, in each moment, momentarily adopted each team that was the home team for me. I adopted them as my home team, and I got fired up for them.
Bubble life. Next. There will be 500 people in the stands for tonight's Broncos game. So basically, it'll be like a Chargers home game. I was mean. I shouldn't have said that. So I'm not saying I'm going to get fired if you don't watch tonight's Monday Night Football game on Channel 20, but for everybody's safety, let's just do that. Let's just watch it on Channel 20 together, okay? I bring up the fans that you're going to see at the game tonight against the Titans because we've talked a lot about Week 3 against the Buccaneers as being the first week with fans in the stands, 5,000 plus. And some of you are going to look there tonight and be like, hey, I see fans. Yes, those are fans, but they're very important people. The VIP group is made up of players' families and employees and select invitees. They are there to test out the safety procedures at Mile High, test run of sorts, how people are going to get in and out, move around, so on and so forth. You will also see cardboard cutouts in the stands. Those people kicked $100 to charity to have their face on a cutout. So they're VIPs too. There's Mr. B in that great fur coat. Nuggets play Game 7 tomorrow night. Another one. Game 7s are kind of a thing for the Nuggets right now. Maybe the secret to their come-from-behind magic in the NBA playoffs is the familiar voice behind them in the bubble, the complex where the NBA is hoping to keep the basketball in and the Rona out. The voice belongs to the Nuggets PA announcer, one of just 4 announcers brought in to hype his team and to do the same thing for their rivals.
I'm loving it. I'm all in, and I just believe that we can get it done.
Count Denver Nuggets public address announcer Kyle Speller as one of the few people in the world to give Denver a shot at the NBA title this year.
We play selfless basketball, and that's been the culture that's been established here for the past few years.
He's one of 4 PA announcers the NBA brought to Orlando to participate in the league's bubble. So, while he's all in on the Nuggets, he's had to adopt several home teams since the league restarted in late July.
I really want to make every home team feel like they're at home as best as I can.
The work has been fun, but hard. Until the playoffs, he was doing 2 games a day.
I'm just trying to get the job done.
There was a 7-day quarantine when he first arrived, and he was only allowed to leave his room to be tested for COVID-19.
So I used to walk real slow. I made that trip last as long as I could for the 7 days.
And he's missed out on some big moments for his family back here in Denver.
I missed out on my son's graduation when their school, Rangeview High School, they finally had their graduation.
Now that we're deep into the playoffs, it's the Nuggets who've made Speller feel more at home.
Today's the day. I finally get to announce a Nuggets game. Let's go!
He's been the announcer for every home Nuggets playoff game except one, and the players appreciate his presence.
If I can't connect with them, personally or whatever, sometimes they'll come and just kind of tap the glass.
Spetler will stay in the bubble through the NBA Finals. Through the ups and downs, he says it's an experience he's been blessed to be a part of.
He's blessed me to be able to do this, and he's blessed me with a voice to be able to share.
For Next, I'm Brian Wendland.
Man, I feel like that guy and Alan Roach must be like sharing sodas or something like that, because where do you get a voice like that? That's spectacular. So, I-70, traffic jam, haze from wildfire smoke, like an actual highway to hell. Perhaps that is what the mystery musician was playing along the interstate. You see the guy? You will, next. Most Colorado thing we saw today is an I-70 serenade. Brandon sent us video of a guy playing guitar on an overpass on the highway. Driving eastbound on I-70 yesterday evening when he sees the guitarist on top of his car at the Bakerville exit. Could not hear what the guy was playing, so this is where you send us your ideas. Wrong answers only. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext. So much feedback tonight. First off from Holland, who says, after they ruined my football game with the Black Lives Matter, never watched the game. Well, sounds about right. On word of thanks, Erica writes in, this campaign brought me to tears. Best and most thoughtful thing I have seen in a long time. And Lindy from Denver says, Wednesdays are renewing my faith in humanity. Great job, Colorado. Lindy, they're doing the exact same thing for me. I literally cannot wait for Wednesday every week when we go out and do something awesome together. Darlene asks, why is tonight's game so blanking late? It's because first week of the football season, they always play 2 Monday night games. So the West Coast game, the later game, is always kicked back way late in the evening. And Darlene writes in tonight to say, is that a football in your wood pile? I don't know what you're talking about, Darlene. The wood pile is full of wood. Wood that sits there in precisely the same location, day after day, month after month, never to be touched, moved, shifted in any possible way. See you next time.